Hello everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Fiat 131, and here we are now on this wet and windy Monday. It's the 4th of August 2025. I've just made a video for the model channel. I call it 4th of July. Maybe 4th of July's got a ring to it, eh? Anyway, so a few of you responded to my last video number 18, where I basically asked you, do you want me to back off with the detail, or do you like the detail? Do you like seeing things go together bolt by bolt, or would you rather just sort of, a 10-minute video on building the whole bloody engine? So, and resoundingly, you've come back. Nobody has said, speed up. Everybody said, just keep doing what you're doing because we're enjoying it. So, I guess it's a bit of a relaxing watch for some of you that are into the modelling that watch my channel just because it's me. Then I guess it's a change to talk about metal rather than plastic, and not worry about my dirty fingernails. I talk about them a lot, don't I? So I've done a little bit of work off camera actually, because I didn't think it would be very interesting watching. I fitted the plastic pulley to the auxiliary shaft, what was called idler shaft, then I fitted the plastic pulley to that. That involved, I didn't really want to film that because I thought it might get terribly wrong, but it actually didn't. I used the strap, if you remember I had the oil filter strap. Don't use a chain, that'll mark the plastic. And then underneath the actual boss, I actually I cut a piece of cam belt off, as you can see, so that protected it. But you can see the amount of force involved. You can see here, that's the canvas of the strap actually made a mark in the rubber. That's incredible, that's the force. But I got it up to 86 pounds-feet, which is what's specified, and they suggest in the Haynes manual using the old cam belt to hold it. Well, my cam belt doesn't fit anymore. It's like the cam belt is shrunk, which is probably why it jumped. But so yeah, it's there, there's no damage on it. I've spun it, it's all true, it's all lovely, so everything's good. Don't like it though, didn't like doing that at all, not on a plastic pulley. I wish they'd made them all out of steel. I think they used to make a steel pulley with a flange on it, but I think the only reason they've kept the plastic pulley, I'm putting down there because the engine's down there, where the car's behind me here, and you're normally looking at me from over there and you can see behind me. But yeah, that's got a flange on it, and you need at least one flange to stop the belt riding off. I've also fitted the water pump, which was pretty straightforward. The only thing with the water pump is all the bolts go through into the water jacket. So they've got copper washers on them to help seal if anything gets past the thread. But I've used my my good old Loctite 243 here, because that is, not only is it a sort of medium thread lock, it's also a thread sealer as well. So that should seal anything from coming past the threads. So, but that's all gone together. I put some grease around the bolts to stop them corroding if they get water on them. And I also greased around the copper washers. I've got a pack of copper washers here, which I bought. It's one of those cheap sets. You get boxes of split pins, you get boxes of electrical contact bullets and all that, and they're rubbish. The copper washers on here are like twice as thick as them, and they're larger in diameter, so I just reused them. Luckily they all stayed with their relative bolts, so they've just gone back to how they were. But it's a brand new water pump, so, and if you remember, I pushed the pulley down to get it to the 36mm. The old water pump, a little bit of play in the bearing, very stiff. Didn't trust it. The last thing I want to do with this car, I think I said this before, I do not want to drive it 3 miles away from the house and have it break down because the water pump's collapsed, when I could have changed it for the sake of 30 quid. Because I don't want to, I really don't want to go leaving this car anywhere. It'll just get stolen, I think. Anyway, Dotty's here, just come running up on the chair. So what else are we doing? So I fitted as I said, I fitted the auxiliary shaft, which you saw me do. I put the cover on, which you saw me do and then mess up. But I've put that on, that stud works absolutely fine. I've put the water pump on, and that's all I've done. So what we'll do is go back now to the detailed bits, because you haven't seen those bits. I'll show you what I've done, and then we'll go back to, we'll fit the oil pump, I think, today, and the tube for the breather, so that the breather works basically, the vapor goes up into the breather, swirls around, condenses, and then the oil runs back down this tube. And the reason it has a tube to run back into is because the tube actually sits below the surface of the oil. So basically there is no crankcase pressure pushing up that tube, otherwise you just have everything going out. This engine doesn't breathe heavy at all, it's really good. This engine is fantastic. Just one other thing, there is a gear. If you remember, I showed you a gear around the outside the auxiliary shaft. There is a gear that drops in, and that gear drives the oil pump and the distributor, unless you've got like a Monte Carlo type where the distributor is in the cam box. Then you have a blanking plug that holds that gear in. Don't put that gear in until you're ready to fit the distributor, because that gear has nothing holding it in. So basically, if you put that gear in, then you turn the engine over, guess what happens? It falls out, and it won't fall out on the floor. Oh no, it'll fall out inside the block when you've got the sump on. So you'll have to take the sump off again to get it off. So don't put that gear in until you know the engine's not going to be flipped over, and or you're going to fit your distributor. Okay, so you have been warned. I've oiled the oil pump to get it wet inside. What we're going to have to do with this engine, because it's a geared oil pump, it's not an eccentric one that goes around the crank, it's actually 2 gears, then they can be a bit troublesome for picking up oil from day one. So what I'm going to do with this is leave the casing off the side, and then I'll pump oil into there to backfill the oil pump once there's oil in the sump. If I pump oil into the oil pump now, it'll just run through the oil pump and straight out. So what we need is some oil in the sump, so that the oil in the pump has got something stopping. It'll still flow out over time, but it'll be a lot less likely to flow out than it would be if there was nothing in the sump at all. So what we're going to do, we're going to fit the pipe, we're going to fit the oil pump, we're going to fit the sump, okay, and then we'll flip the engine over, do the head and all that stuff. And then what we're going to do is, before it's ready to go on the car, when it's all timed up and everything, we'll fill the sump, and we'll also fill the cam boxes with oil. Make sure the cam boxes are full up to their level, so that when the engine initially starts, everything up the top is nice and wet. So, because it's nice to have things up the top nice and wet, isn't it? You know, it's no good having them dry. We need them wet. So there we go. All right, so that's the way I'm going to go. I could put the head on next and then do the sump. It doesn't really matter which way you go, but I just want to get the bottom of the engine all closed up and all sealed in, and then we've got no worry about dirt and debris getting in there. Then I do want to get on and do a bit of grinding work and cutting work, but I just daren't with the engine like it is, all open and exposed. So I've done a little bit on the back of the car, as you've already seen, but that's basically outside, because I'm outside by the garage door, and I'm making sure that whenever I cut, everything goes down, nothing goes up in the air. So so there we go. Right, without further ado, I'm going to get the camera on the tripod and we'll look at what I'm actually doing today. All right, so I said I was going to go onto the tripod. I'm just going to hold the camera for this little bit. So as you can see, auxiliary pulley is on, all nicely done up and everything. Water pump is here, nice and firm, brand new water pump. And you can see there's copper washers. So make sure you've got your 4 copper washers on your water pump. And these are all torqued down to about 10 or 11 pounds-feet. Same with the cover bolts here. You can see there's that stud in there that we replaced. Okay, so I didn't think actually the old water pump had these studs in, which are the same as what was in here. I could have taken one out of there, but never mind, we've got a much stronger version in there anyway. So there we go. The other thing I've done is with a scalpel, I've just gone on and removed any excess gasket material that was sticking out of here. I've done the same on the back, so it's nice and smooth. Okay, one thing I did forget to mention when I was building this, make sure, check when you're building your engine. I'll go around this way so you can read it the right way up. You can see on this Fiat engine, a lot of engines have the similar thing. You can see you've got 8130, okay? That means nothing to the engine whatsoever. All it is, all of these caps should have 8130 on them. If one of them doesn't, you could end up with some serious problems. What can happen, people will spin a bearing and they'll just get another cap off another engine, chuck it in there, tighten it down, and that's it. They don't check anything and it runs and they're happy. If that's the case, you could have some serious issues, and what you need to do is get the engine line bored, because if it has spun a bearing and damaged the cap to where the point they've had to replace it, then probably the block face where the bearing sits is going to be damaged as well. But these people that like just sell anything, they'll just put it back together, it runs, that's it, sell it on. Okay, it might last 10 minutes, it might last 10 years. They just hope for the best. It's criminal, but it does go on. You can see on here the C, and we've got an A there and we've got a B there. That's the grade. Okay, that's the grade of the bore. So they grade the pistons. It could be the grade of the bearings, but I think it's the pistons. So you've got grades there. And then here, I think I mentioned these, we've got 4, 3, 2, as you can see there, we've got 1. All right, that's basically your bearing cap numbers. 1 has nothing, and then 2 is 1, 3 is 2, 4 is 3, 5 is 4. Okay, so that's that. And as you can see, it's all still lovely and clean in here and all nice because we keep it all covered up. Okay, so you would not believe, even though this is a garage that I'm not moving about in much, I'm not doing grinding and everything, but look at this. I've got the seat up on the roof because I've got the rear seat out, and I have cleaned the roof off before I put the seat on it. And look at this already, this dust on here. It's incredible. I don't know if it's coming from this car because it came from a very dry environment. I know the seat was quite dusty when I took it out, but and also we found our little friend's cocoons, didn't we? But there we are. So yeah, you need to be wary of the rubbish in the atmosphere. So anyway, so here's the parts we've got. This is the breather hose. Okay, so that's going to go, or the breather pipe, that's going to go up into the breather area. And then we've got the two little M6 by 25mm bolts or screws with lock washers on them. So that's cool. And then here we have the oil pump. The oil pump's got 3 M6 bolts in it holding it together. You've obviously got the big mesh down there, which you want to make sure is nice and clean, which we have. And then we've got here, we've got a 100, I think it's 105 and a 90mm bolt. And we've got this special washer on the top, because on here, as you can see, we've got this oval slot for the bolt to go in. There are different gaskets. I've only got one of them here. In fact, I should have put this on the table with it. I've only got one of them here. There's 3 different gaskets like this in the set. Make sure you're using the right one that matches your oil pump, okay? And then we've got our sockets here, and we've got our torque wrench. So let's get the camera on a tripod and go and put this together. Okay, so we've got our breather pipe here. So as you can see, we've got, this end has a sort of turn diameter, and there's a bore for it to go into in there. So I'm going to make sure it goes into that bore. And it can only go one way, I think. Yeah, it won't go, it has to go this way around, this being the front of the engine, because otherwise it will hit the auxiliary shaft. So there we go. So that's going to drop in there like that. Okay. Also, if you do put it the wrong way, you'll find your sump won't fit. But there we are. So that's going to go in like that. So I've got my M6 by 25mm bolts. So I'm just going to put a drop of oil on the thread, drop of oil under the head. As I say, when you look at people talking about torque specs, they always mention minimum lubrication. Unless they specifically say dry, always put a drop of oil on. It doesn't need to be dripping wet. As you can see, this is just literally, sorry, I'm off camera, aren't I? This is just literally a drop, just to moisten things. Oh, moisten, that's a lovely word. There's Dottie just come running in, and she's got a ball in her mouth. She wants to play bally. So we'll just tighten those down finger tight. There she goes. I can't believe that ball you can hear knocking around is actually a hard plastic ball. It did have a little beeper in it. And I bought that for Jess probably 7 or 8 years ago. And it's been lost, and she's found it somewhere. I'm just going to do this up. Okay, again, we've got spring washers as well, so that's going to help lock these in. And we'll just pull these down. I've got this set to 11 pounds-feet. Somehow it doesn't feel right again. That feels way too tight. Let me just check this torque wrench out. I mean, I'm getting a bit suspect with this torque wrench, to be honest with you. Okay, I found a little issue here that I've never experienced before. But as you can see here, the washer is actually digging itself into the steel. This is just a piece of steel plate. So I can't even get 10 pounds-feet on it. It's just literally crushing that steel. So what I'm going to have to do is give all this a clean with some carb cleaner to degrease it, and put them in with some thread lock. And I might even put a fatter washer under here to stop it digging in, because the last thing I want is these bolts coming out in the sump. That's the last thing you want, obviously. So I can't understand why I can't even get 10 pounds feet out of them, or what's going on. But as I say, I've built a few of these and I've never known this before. So let me get it sorted and then I'll come back and tell you what I've done. Okay, so here we go. I've cleaned the threads out. I was going to put some thread lock in there, but I don't think I'm going to bother now. So Thea obviously weren't too worried about those bolts coming out, were they? So that's going to go in, sorry, that way round. No, that way round. That's right. So that's going to push up into there. Locate those two holes. We'll grab our two bolts. They're brand new M6 8.8 bolts. In case you don't know, 8.8 refers to the straight. You've got 8.8, which is the standard, and you've got 10.9. These are R10. I don't know what that means. I've never seen that before. But obviously, being main bearing bolts, they're going to be extremely strong. So just pull those down finger tight. Now you'll see the difference here, I think. I haven't done this off camera. I've put a slight amount of lubrication on the threads, but you should see a massive difference here. There we go. There we go. That's what it was. It was the fasteners. I'm not sure. I looked at these. You see, these are 8.8. So, you know, that there, 10 pounds feet, absolutely fine. I don't know why they use those. See, this is it's settling in there. So I'm thinking I might put a bit of thread lock on them if they're going to settle in like that. And we'll see. Anyway, let's get on with the oil pump. Okay, we've got all our bits and bobs here ready to go. I'm going to put some thread lock on these because I want them to. I want to ensure they don't ever come out. So basically, I've got the gasket in place. Very small amount of grease on it just to hold it in place. Really, this is one area where I prefer modern engines. A modern engine would have an O-ring around there to seal it. So that's one area where I think things have improved. O-rings and stuff, you know, sealing surfaces. Engines better off actually here putting the gasket on the pump because it's got that spigot diameter. Yeah, engines you know, used to have gaskets everywhere, just like this one. But these days, come on, go in, there we go. These days they tend to use O-rings and sealant. When you buy a gasket set for an engine, you'll think, blimey, I've been ripped off. All you get is a big bag of O-rings. So, and possibly a tube of sealant. If you want to see what I mean, go have a look at my Land Rover engine build. So this one's going to go in here. It's clearly the shorter one. So we're going to drop that into there, like so, to get it until it's lined up. There we go. Okay, and then we'll do the same with this one. I'm a little bit worried about this getting in between the faces now. In fact, I'm going to wipe this off and I'm going to put it in the holes, because the trouble here is what's happening while I'm stood here doing nothing. The thread lock is running down the thread and it will be getting onto the gasket and in between the faces, and I'm not sure what that would do. And I was wrong, it's not doing anything of the sort. Okay, so what we'll do is I'm going to put some thread lock in here. I do remember seeing a video actually saying you're supposed to put thread lock in the bore and not on the bolt. So there we go. Okay, so that can go down like that, and then we'll get this long bolt here. So that's going to go that way round, and that's going to drop into that hole. Blimey, this is harder than it looks, guys. Blimey, come on. This is ridiculous. I'm making hard work of it, that's what's happening. I'm going to grab that bolt. Where did I put the other bolt? There it is, hiding by the torque wrench. I've got the gasket trapped in there. Oh dear, this is what happens when the bloody camera's on. This is why I don't like filming anything. It's a pain. I'd much rather just be in here with the radio on, singing away. You see, I'll grab that gasket. Look. It's not that important, to be honest, this gasket, because it's inside the engine. You're not going to get an oil leak from it. It's only to kind of ensure that the maximum oil pressure possible is held within the oil lines. Okay, so we'll get that into there like that. If you can hear it, we've got another neighbour now that's decided to start kicking footballs against his garage wall, which is just wonderful. Okay, so I've slightly lubricated the washers and the bolt heads. I'm going to get, I've got that washer out of line there, haven't I? Move that over, get it correctly lined up. I'm not exactly sure what it's there for, to be honest, but it's probably to carry the load around the casing. So I'm just going to pull this down evenly like so. This is set at 18 pounds-feet. There we go. There we go. So that's the oil pump down and fitted to the engine. So the next thing I've got to do is fit the sump. Now, I'm not going to film fitting the sump. The reason being, oh, I hear you say, the reason being is we have a thick cork gasket. I'm going to put sealant in these areas here because that way is a pathway for oil to leak out. So I'm going to put some sealant in there, quickly get the gasket on, and then I'm going to get all the bolts in and get them all torqued down. And then one by one, I'm going to take them out and put thread lock on them. I think what I'll do is come back to you at that point. The reason I want to get all the bolts in and torque them down is because the thick cork gasket will pull down and down and down. And I just have to take about 2 hours, just keep giving it a pull down, and it will spread out. Why don't I just use sealant, I hear you ask? Number one, it's quite a thick gasket. This sump has already had a jack put on it and been jacked up. So I don't want to risk having the sump too close to this pickup pipe and restricting oil flow. I've straightened that as best I can. I think you've seen that already. The other thing is it's designed to have a gasket, so therefore I will use a gasket. Okay, if it had a flat flange on it, or if I was putting an aluminium dry sump on or something, I would use sealant. I wouldn't use a gasket. But that steel pan is designed to have a gasket. It's not designed to have a silicone bead put around it. So that's why I'm putting the gasket in. Okay, I'll see you in a couple of hours. And there we go, guys. As you can see, each bolt is marked with a line. The reason I've done that is because what I've done, I've put it on. Okay, and if you've got an old sump like this with a cork gasket, you can see the cork gasket in there. Okay, you've got these washers which have a serrated front face on them and they're domed, so they actually act like a lock washer. So as the gasket sort of compresses over time, they will kind of take up the slack. But it's worth keeping an eye on them, because I know, for example, on this engine, I know it's 43 years old and I'm not sure if it's been apart. I don't think it has. They were literally finger tight. I could literally take them out without a ratchet. So it's worth bearing in mind. Now what I've done with these, I've put them all in, I've gone round and sort of diagonally tightened them all up until they're pulled down. And what you'll find is it's a real pain, and for those that aren't experienced with it, it's something, you know, you have to just keep going at. You sort of tighten this one down, so it's, you know, you can feel it sort of like as tight as you would do a screw up, say, and then you sort of go to the back, and then you come back up here, and then you go over there, and then you go over there, and when you come back to here, that's loose. So you just got to keep going until they stay tight. And then what I've done is one by one, I've taken them out, thread locked them, and then put them back in, and I've torqued them down to 7 or about 6.5 pounds-feet. Actually, I went 6 and then went a little bit more, so it's about 6.5 pounds-feet, which is ample for these, because if you go too tight, all we do is just crush the gasket and squeeze it out. So I'm hoping that's going to be okay. These little ridges on here, they act as they bite the gasket, so the gasket will go up into it and it will keep it in place and stop it coming out. I have seen them literally just slide out like a, you know, like a burger comes out of a Big Mac when you go to McDonald's and you pick it up because they haven't put together very carefully. But you know what I mean. So there you go. And then the reason I got a line on them is because I took that one out, put some thread lock on it, torqued it down, took that one out, torqued it down, took that one out, torqued it down, and as I've done them, I marked them, and then I've gone round missing each one. So that's really the way. If you start putting thread lock on them straight away, by the time you get to the final sort of torquing, the thread lock will have started to cure and it'll give you false readings. So that's my recommendation. So we've actually discovered that I'm a complete and utter idiot again in this video, because I tried to pull a 5.8 bolt down too tight. I think the trouble is, because I'm doing this on camera, I'm using a torque wrench. I would normally just use feel, and I would feel when those bolts are tight enough, but because I'm using a torque wrench and 8 to 11 pounds-feet is the correct torque for an M6 bolt, that's what I'm doing. But I wouldn't normally bother. I'd normally just do feel, but I just want to show you guys how I'm doing it. So yeah, as I say, they've all gone down to about 6.5, 7 pounds-feet, which is nothing, but it's enough to, with the thread lock, everything, those washers on there, it's enough to hold it down. So there we go. Here you can see where the sump's had a whack at the front. That's okay. This car's been driven over something. It's got damage on the front towing eyes, which are now over there. And it's also got, as I showed you in the last video, in the wheel well in the boot, there's some dents in there. So it's obviously been driven over something. I don't know, maybe the mafia got it's been driven over some bodies or something, who knows. But anyway, so basically, there we go. There's the sump. You can see here where I've pressed it down, and you can see here, you can see that this circle here, hang on, this circle here that you can see, that's supposed to be that. It's like a dish which is pressed into the sump. But this circle here, you can see here, that's the trolley jack. So the idea with these is you jack them on the front cross member, but they've missed and jacked it on the sump instead, and they pushed it all up here. So I've got it out. What I was worried about was the sump being up too close to that pickup pipe. But there we go. So that's the bottom half of the engine together. So now we can flip it over and start to look at the top and all the ancillaries. So I'll see you next time for that, maybe tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.